glory, the God-sized story.
Hello and welcome to another episode of God-Sized Stories. This week, my guest is Mandy. Mandy, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, my name is Mandy. Like you said, I am 41 years old. Oh my goodness, I had to stop and think about that one for a second. I am a preschool teacher with ELV. I have two children. They are 9 and 12, and I'm married, living here in Gurnee. When I was 39, shortly after my birthday, I had a heart attack, and that began a course of some crazy health issues that shaped my faith in life.
Wow, that sounds like a giant, life-changing group of events that happened with you and your family. Let's spend some time right now going through some of the details of that whole story.
Okay. Like I said, it was the first heart attack happened after I was 39. It was just a few days after my birthday. And I began to have the very classic symptoms of a heart attack. The elephant on the chest, the pain in the arm, shortness of breath. It was evening. We were watching TV. Me, my husband, and my kids were asleep. And at the time, me and my husband were just kind of going back and forth wondering what is going on and what should we do about it. Being that I was only 39,
Right.
A heart attack never crossed my mind. Sometime early on in this process of chatting and going through the symptoms, I had sent a text to my brother, who is a little bit older than me, and he's a bachelor. I had sent him a text saying, I'm having some chest pain, and we may need you to come over. Now, I should preface by saying that, he's a bachelor in a truest form. He, when he puts his sweatpants on and sits in his recliner, there is no getting him out of it. Shortly after sending that text, there was a knock at my door, and my brother had shown up at our house. At this point, Dave and I, my husband, were still debating about what to do.
Right.
Do we go to the hospital? Do we not? What's going on? And I can only think that it was God nudging him to come to our house. He even went through some red lights to get there. And because he showed up, we went to the hospital. It was literally the kick in the butt that we needed. And sure enough, I was having a heart attack. And those that know anything about heart attacks will know that time is muscle. When you're having a heart attack, the longer that you are in that state, the more damage can happen.
Right.
So the fact that he came when he did and we went when we did, again, was God looking out for me.
Big sign.
And as things progressed after this, things like that just kept happening, that I would see God's hand in it and him taking care of me. We found out after the first heart attack that I have something called an aberrant subclavian artery. Sounds fancy and strange.
Doctor talk.
Yes. Basically what it means is that the artery that is in my left arm decided that it didn't want to connect at the place that everyone else's does. It is supposed to go connect to the aortic arch and then move on to your heart. And mine decided that it was going to wrap around my esophagus and go through my body and connect somewhere else. Luckily, it does what it's supposed to do. And at this point, it doesn't have much effect on me. But what it means is that it's something that I need to monitor because it is abnormal. It is an anomaly. I am susceptible to developing an aneurysm there. There is no way I would have ever discovered this. There was
Right. Why would you ever discover it?
Yes. I mean, there's no why you have to look at your heart to to see this. And it was discovered because when I first had the heart attack, the cardiologist tried to go through my arm, and he couldn't make it to my heart and had to abandon that and go through my thigh. And now I go every year and have an MRA, and they take a little look at it and make sure that everything's okay with it. And I fully believe that that's saving my life just right there, because if an aneurysm had or were to ever develop there and burst, that's life-ending. And again, I would have never known. So second time, God is looking out for me.
Right.
A strange way to go about it, but hey, God works in mysterious ways, right?
Yes, he does.
About 2 months after that, I had a second heart attack. And again, through the whole process of that, I saw God's hand in it. The symptoms when they started weren't like the first time. They were different. And again, that internal debate of, do I go to the hospital? What do I do? Started, and God said, go. And even when I showed up in the ER, there were no telltale signs of having a heart attack. The tests that they do to tell that were negative, but they kept me because of my history. And sure enough, within a couple hours, I was having a heart attack. It's God helping. And testing that I had done after that second heart attack showed that I had a brain aneurysm. Again, why would I have ever seen that? I'm 39.
No reason to get that checked.
Yeah, and brain aneurysms don't show symptoms. I am 39 years old. Why would I have my brain scanned? The aneurysm was large enough that I had to have surgery on it. There was the risk of it bursting. During the tests that were done afterwards, I also discovered that I had a lump in my breast. And again, you might say, well, you would have found that eventually. I don't know if I would have. The placement, or however you want to say it, where it is at, I would not have been able to feel it with the self-exam that most women do. And because of my younger age, it probably would have been a while before I went to start getting mammograms. And when I went to go get the testing after they found the lump, they discovered that I had a lump in the other breast. So I ended up having a biopsy on both breasts. Lord willing, they were both benign, but one of the masses was that type of cells that has to be monitored more closely to make sure that it doesn't develop into cancer.
Wow.
That's not a coincidence.
Oh.
You know, these things that happen one after another, and I have to believe that God was looking out for me.
Absolutely.
And through all this, you know, ambulance rides and sitting and waiting for tests, and, you know, in all the scariest moments, I had a prayer that I said over and over again. And I would say, Lord, fill me with the peace that only comes from trusting you. And I would feel it. And though there were times when, you know, it sucked not feeling good, or I may have been a little concerned, I was never scared. I always felt taken care of. And I always felt like there was a reason, and that he was looking out for me.
Yeah. So what would be the approximate time frame between that very first heart attack until, you know, finding out you have 2 lumps and going and getting those tested?
Let me think. It was probably about 9 months.
Wow.
But honestly, everything is still ongoing. I feel like I luckily have not had any major health issues recently, probably in the last year, but it was a good probably year or almost a year and a half of tests and procedures and I also developed fibromyalgia and asthma and GERD. I've had 2 trips to Mayo in this time frame. I'm at just past the 2-year mark.
Okay.
And so even though things have settled, my life will never be the same.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So especially during that one really big year where it was all going on, how was your faith throughout that time?
It grew a ton, and it was stronger than it had been. One of the feelings I had during this is God's timing. I didn't grow up in the church, and I didn't even go to church much as an adult, but it's been within the last couple of years that I've really grown in my faith and in my community, in my church, and with people. And I feel like if this had happened even 5 years earlier, things would not have been the same. Wow. I have to believe that, again, that God was looking out for me. Mm-hmm. Some women have these heart attacks, the type of heart attack that I had after childbirth, and I had 2 C-sections. I think that was God
protecting you in that moment.
And
sure.
And I also think that He knew I couldn't handle it then. So going through all of this and being able to see His hand over and over and over again, and feeling the peace that He gave me has gotten me through, and has given me the thirst to just grow and learn more, and to share, and to shine His light and spread His word. It's really been amazing. I mean, I can't say I'd wish it upon anyone by any means, but I feel very fortunate that I was able to recognize all those things amongst some dark times.
Right. So, obviously you can't fully look retrospectively because you're still in the season. But at least to this point, looking back, what's the biggest thing, like the biggest takeaway you think you could pull out of all of that?
That saying, not even the saying, it's a verse, the God works all things for your good. And that even though sometimes your good isn't the good that you want, His opinion of what's best for you and your opinion might be different, He is looking out for you. And if you can recognize that and look for it and believe it, it can really make hard times so much easier.
That's so true. Thank you so much for sharing all that, Mandy. It's like, I knew you in that time. We weren't super close. We both, I think I was I still working down in
I believe you were still a tutor
there too. And so it was, from somewhat of a distance, but also in the same circle of prayer type of area. And it's like, to see this now and to hear you say these things are so encouraging. And I hope you listening at home can be encouraged by that too. Even in the hardest of health issues, He's there. He's working it for good. We might not see it, especially in the moment, but He guarantees for His glory it'll work out for good. So think about that today, listeners. Mandy, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm so encouraged by all the guests that I have on in many different ways, obviously. And listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. I couldn't do this without you. Goodbye.